What if Jin-Woo had his memories from the beginning? Would he defeat enemies sooner, and would he collect even stronger shadows along the way? Let's get right into the story. Now we have the arc where Jin-Woo enters the D-rank dungeon. Jin-Woo already remembers everything that will happen here. He knows the hidden double dungeon will appear, and he knows this moment is what leads to him getting the system. Because of that, he does not try to stop the group from going inside the second entrance. When the hunters enter the temple and the statues start moving, Jin-Woo already knows the rules of the room. He quickly tells the hunters to bow to the god, praise the god, and prove their faith. Because Jin-Woo already knows the puzzle, fewer hunters die compared to the original timeline. However, the ending of the arc stays mostly the same. Jin-Woo knows someone has to stay behind for the final test. Instead of being scared like before, he steps forward right away. The other hunters escape the dungeon while Jin-Woo is left behind. The statues attack him just like before, and this is when the system appears and chooses him to become the player. This starts his journey to becoming the Shadow Monarch. Now let's move into the instant dungeon arc. After the double dungeon incident, Jin-Woo wakes up in the hospital and receives the system. In the original timeline, he was confused and had to slowly figure out how everything worked. But in this timeline, Jin-Woo already remembers everything, so he immediately understands the daily quests, leveling system, and stat points. Because of this, Jin-Woo wastes no time. He completes his daily quests right away and starts increasing his stats much faster than before. Soon after, the system gives him the key to the instant dungeon. When Jin-Woo enters the dungeon, this is much easier for him compared to the original timeline. He already remembers the layout of the dungeon and the enemies inside. So instead of struggling and learning during the fight, he moves through the dungeon much more confidently. Eventually he reaches the boss, the giant snake. In the original timeline, this fight was very dangerous for Jin-Woo because he was still inexperienced. But now he already knows the snake's attack patterns. Because of that, he dodges its attacks more easily and defeats it faster than before. So overall, the events of this arc stay mostly the same. The main difference is that Jin-Woo clears the dungeon more efficiently and gains levels earlier than he originally did. This means he is already stronger going into the next arc. Now we move into the Dungeon and Lizards arc. Jin-Woo joins the C-rank dungeon raid with Hwang Dong-suk's group just like in the original timeline. The big difference is that Jin-Woo already remembers that this group plans to betray him and Yu Jin-ho. Because of that, Jin-Woo stays calm the whole time and keeps watching the group closely. When they reach the boss room, the group still locks Jin-Woo and Jin-ho inside so they can leave them to die. But this time, Jin-Woo already expects it. Instead of being surprised, he prepares for the fight right away. The boss appears, and since Jin-Woo is already stronger from leveling earlier, he defeats it much easier than before. After that, the group returns thinking Jin-Woo and Jin-ho should already be dead. But Jin-Woo is waiting for them since he already knows their plan and how they fight. The battle is much easier for him. Jin-Woo defeats the hunters who betrayed him and survives the dungeon just like in the original timeline. So overall, the events of this arc stay mostly the same. The only real difference is that Jin-Woo is prepared for the betrayal and handles the situation much faster and easier than before. Now we move into the job change arc. After Jin-Woo keeps leveling up with the system, he eventually receives a special quest that will decide his class. In the original timeline, Jin-Woo enters this dungeon without knowing what to expect and ends up struggling a lot because the enemies keep coming without stop. But in this timeline, Jin-Woo already remembers how the quest works, so he fights much smarter and saves his energy instead of wasting it early. Jin-Woo fights through waves of knights, mages, and stronger enemies that keep appearing. Since he already knows the dungeon is designed to wear him down, he focuses on surviving and defeating enemies as efficiently as possible. Because of this, he reaches the final part of the quest in much better condition than he did before. Now it's time to fight Igris. Jin-Woo already knows how strong Igris is, so he takes the fight seriously from the start. Instead of underestimating him, Jin-Woo waits for openings and avoids his strongest attacks. Because he is stronger and more prepared this time, the fight ends faster than it did in the original timeline. After winning the battle, Jin-Woo completes the quest and receives the Necromancer class, which quickly evolves into the Shadow Monarch class. This allows Jin-Woo to extract shadows from defeated enemies and build his own shadow army. Jin-Woo immediately uses this power and extracts Igris as his first powerful shadow soldier. So the outcome of this arc stays mostly the same, but Jin-Woo finishes the quest with less struggle and gains his shadow powers a little more efficiently than before. This is also the moment where Jin-Woo's power truly starts growing much faster than any normal hunter. Now we move into the Demon Castle arc. Jin-Woo enters the Demon Castle because he remembers the reward at the top can help cure his mother. Since he already knows how this dungeon works, he understands that he must climb floor by floor and collect the items needed to reach the top. Because of this knowledge, Jin-Woo clears the early floors much faster. He already knows what kinds of demons appear and how strong they are, so he moves through the lower levels without wasting time. As he keeps climbing, he continues leveling up while fighting stronger demons on the higher floors. Eventually, Jin-Woo reaches the floors where the demon nobles appear. appear. These enemies are much stronger than the lower demons, but Jin-Woo already remembers their abilities and defeats them while continuing to build his strength. As Jin-Woo reaches the top floor, he confronts the Demon King, Baran. Since Jin-Woo remembers how dangerous this fight is, he takes it seriously from the start and avoids taking unnecessary damage. With his shadows fighting beside him, Jin-Woo defeats Baran and clears the dungeon. By this point in the story, Jin-Woo still has Igris, Iron, and Tank fighting as part of his shadow army while he finishes the demon castle. Now we move into the Jeju Island arc. Since Jin-Woo remembers everything about the future, this arc changes more than the earlier ones. Jin-Woo already knows how dangerous the Ant Army is and how powerful the Ant King will be. Because of this, he chooses to join the raid from the beginning, instead of arriving late like in the original timeline. When the S-rank hunters arrive on Jeju Island, they begin clearing the ant tunnels just like before. Large numbers of ants rush the hunters, but Jin-Woo is much more prepared this time. Since he already knows how the ants fight and how the tunnels are structured, he moves through the battlefield much more efficiently. Jin-Woo releases his shadow soldiers to control the battlefield. Igris and Tank push through the front lines and cut down large numbers of ant soldiers. Iron charges through the ants and crushes them with brute strength, while Tusk supports from behind with powerful magic that wipes out groups of enemies inside the tunnels. However, Jin-Woo already knows the real fight has not started yet. Soon the Ant King appears. Just like in the original timeline, the Ant King moves incredibly fast and begins overwhelming the S-rank hunters with its speed and strength. But this time, Jin-Woo is already nearby and ready for the fight. When the Ant King attacks, Jin-Woo steps in immediately. Since he remembers how fast the Ant King is, Jin-Woo focuses on dodging and countering. Instead of rushing the fight, the Ant King tries to blitz Jin-Woo several times, but Jin-Woo already expects these attacks and avoids them. Jin-Woo then uses his shadows to pressure the Ant King from multiple directions. Igris and Tank attack from the front while Jin-Woo looks for openings. Iron helps keep the Ant King distracted, and Tusk launches magic attacks from a distance to limit its movement. Even with all of that pressure, the Ant King is still extremely strong. The fight becomes fast and brutal as Jin-Woo and the Ant King trade attacks across the battlefield. But because Jin-Woo already knows how this fight plays out, he waits for the perfect opening. Eventually, Jin-Woo lands the finishing strike and defeats the Ant King. After the battle ends, Jin-Woo uses his shadow extraction ability just like in the original timeline and successfully turns the Ant King into a shadow soldier. Baru joins Jin-Woo's army. At this point in the story, Jin-Woo's shadow army includes Igris, Iron, Tank, Tusk, and now Baru. Now we move into the International Guild arc. Now this is beyond Season 2, so if you guys don't want any spoilers, click off the video right now, but make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are gonna click off, but if not, let's get into the next arc. After the events of Jeju Island, Jin-Woo's power becomes known all over the world. Other countries start hearing about the Korean hunter who defeated the Ant King and helped clear Jeju Island. Because of this, international guilds and powerful hunters begin paying attention to him. At the same time, Jin-Woo already remembers that the Monarchs are the real threat behind everything. So instead of getting distracted by fame or attention from other guilds, Jin-Woo continues focusing on getting stronger and preparing for what he knows is coming. During this time, Jin-Woo continues clearing high-level gates and growing his shadow army. His strongest shadows still include Igris, Iron, Tank, Tusk, and Baru, and they continue fighting beside him as he becomes even stronger. This is also when the world starts realizing that Jin-Woo is not just another S-rank hunter. Many hunters begin understanding that Jin-Woo is on a completely different level compared to most hunters around the world. While other countries and guilds begin moving and preparing their own plans, Jin-Woo already knows that the real war between the rulers and the Monarchs is getting closer. Now we move into the Monarchs War arc. By this point, Jin-Woo already remembers that the Monarchs will eventually come to Earth and target him. Because of that, he has been preparing much earlier than in the original timeline. Instead of slowly learning about the Monarchs, Jin-Woo already understands that they are far stronger than normal hunters, and even stronger than most S-rank hunters in the world. Eventually, the Frost Monarch and the Beast Monarch make their move. In the original timeline, they ambushed Jin-Woo and caught him off guard. But in this timeline, Jin-Woo already expects them to appear sooner or later. The moment they reveal themselves, Jin-Woo immediately summons his shadow army. Igris, Iron, Tank, Tusk, and Baru appear beside him as the fight begins. The Beast Monarch is the first to attack, rushing forward with overwhelming speed and power. Instead of trying to overpower him directly, Jin-Woo focuses on controlling the fight. Igris and Baru move in first and clash with the Beast Monarch, forcing him to slow down while Jin-Woo studies his movements. At the same time, the Frost Monarch begins attacking from a distance with powerful ice attacks meant to freeze and trap Jin-Woo. Since Jin-Woo remembers how dangerous these attacks are, he keeps moving, while Tusk fires powerful magic attacks back toward the Frost Monarch to keep him from freely attacking. The battlefield quickly turns chaotic as Jin-Woo's shadows fight across multiple directions. Igris and Iron help hold the Beast Monarch back, while Jin-Woo looks for openings to strike. Even with several shadows attacking at once, the Beast Monarch continues tearing through the battlefield with brute strength. The Frost Monarch then begins supporting his ally with freezing attacks that attempt to slow Jin-Woo and his shadows. But Jin-Woo already knows this strategy and avoids getting trapped, forcing the Monarchs to keep adjusting their attacks. As the fight continues, Jin-Woo begins pressing the Monarchs harder. Baru and Igris repeatedly clash with the Beast Monarch, while Jin-Woo joins the fight direct, landing several heavy attacks that begin wearing him down. Realizing the fight is starting to shift against them, the Monarchs begin fighting more aggressive. The battlefield is filled with ice attacks, shockwaves, and shadow soldiers as both sides push harder to gain control of the fight. Eventually, Jin-Woo finds the opening he has been waiting for. After the Beast Monarch overextends during an attack, Jin-Woo lands a powerful strike that heavily injures him. With the fight no longer going in their favor, the Monarchs are forced to retreat for the moment. By this point in the story, Jin-Woo continues fighting with his shadow army, which includes Igris, Iron, Tank, Tusk, and Baru, as the war between the Monarchs and the rulers begins escalating even further. Alright guys, I hope you really liked my first solo leveling video. Let me know how I did down below, and if you guys want me to do solo leveling videos every single week alongside Demon Slayer videos, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me down below. I want to see which one gets more views and more attention, because that's the anime we'll be doing each week alongside Demon Slayer.